a lot below market value. So it's a very common thing. It's a very old trick in the book, and used correctly, it will make you a fortune.
But how does that work for someone like myself, where I might not have that much experience with real estate, or I may not have the money, or like, how does that really work? Because let's say I want to do that and I come to you. Like, how does that process work?
Yeah, great question.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually doesn't cost that much money.
Okay.
Especially if you're doing very small deals.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing, if you know for sure that you want to work on this project, and if you know for sure that you have a buyer on the flip side, then the only out-of-pocket expenses will be the deposit. So normally, definitely in California,
mm-hmm.
and it's pretty similar throughout the whole nation, you're going to put a deposit for normally 3%, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say you're working on a very, very, very small project, right? Let's say you're working on for example, in LA, like a $1 million project, right? Let's say you're able to the property is worth like $1.3 million.
Yes.
And you get it under contract for $1 million, right?
Right.
And if you know absolutely for sure that you will have a buyer and you will be able to flip it, then the only thing you need to pay is the deposit for the escrow, and that's usually 3%. So like, if you know for sure you're about to assign it and flip it, then you're looking at like a $30,000 deposit that you could get back. That is refundable normally if you actually get into escrow. So normally, like the risks and the expenses are pretty minimal on a wholesale flip, because you end up putting the deposit that is refundable, and then if you end up closing the deal, then you'll make like a few $100,000. And then you obviously get that the deposit money goes into the purchase price. So it's a very good, it's pretty reasonable. And for example, like if you do put the deposit down,
mm-hmm.
then and then if you're not able to find a buyer, you in most cases you will get that deposit back. So I've done a few deals where I put a deposit in, one of my clients deposited in, and we weren't able to complete the deal, but he got it back. So it's like, it's a very little to no risk but high return. So it works out for a lot of people if done right. You just need to know the market. You know what I mean? The biggest thing for you need to know what market you're doing it in, because you need to be familiar with, price per square foot, what
right.
things are selling for, what the spread will be. So what area do you live in?
I stay in the Fort Lauderdale area, because I'm from Miami, I'm from Dade, but me and my wife, we live here in Broward County. It's like a county up from Dade, so I stay in the Fort Lauderdale, Pembroke Pines area, like the suburban area.
Yeah. So what I would do, DJ, for you is like, I would really study up on, what's selling in the Fort Lauderdale area. I need to know, what's selling, what isn't selling, so that way, I'm always successful in my flips. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
No, it makes sense. The only other question I have to ask too is also like, we have these apps, and these apps, they already have like realtors, pretty much cover them. But are there any like other websites where you can have an actual listings where you can like find like the like other than Zillow and stuff? Do you have like other websites where you could actually find like the homes in the area without going through, like, I guess, finding those? What I'm trying to say, because I've seen it before where some people say you don't have to go through Zillow. It's like you have to go to like a website or something like that, where you find like the listings or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, right now there's a lot of websites. The technology era in real estate has really boomed.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty much every day there's like a new website or a new app. But the truth is, like, all of them are the same. So you have like the regular, like, it's called the multiple listing service. That's what it's called in California. I'm not 100% sure what it's called in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But in California it's called the multiple listing service. And through that's like the main website that realtors list their properties, but from the MLS, it actually syncs to all these third-party databases. For example, like Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, and sites like those. So basically, the way it works is once you list it on the MLS, then automatically, it's public on all those other databases. So it's a great thing for realtors, because for me, when I list let's say a house in Beverly Hills on the MLS, think about how many people in the world are typing in homes for sale in Beverly Hills, homes for sale in Los Angeles. So now all of these people who are at home on their computer browsing listings, they'll always see my listing or any other listing that's public because of all these third-party websites. So it's very positive and very helpful for agents like myself.
Oh, so you sound like, so for someone who's trying to flip a home, I can use Zillow and all that to find like a home. You could use Zillow. The truth is, for wholesaling, you're gonna want to do mostly homes that are off the market. Yeah, pocket listings. Pocket listings. That's what it's called, right? Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So with pocket listings, there is a website called the Pocket Listing Service. Actually, a close friend of mine runs it. They have pocket listings, but like the truth is, the way you wholesale, successfully is by finding those pocket listings. And they're very easy to navigate. Like, for example, let's say you're looking on a street called Durango. For example, my street is called Durango. Yeah. So for me, I know what houses are on the market and what's public. So for me, I'll just knock on any other door that's not listed and say, like, hey, would you sell your house? And then you give them an offer, and then that's when you wholesale. That's how you're successful with it. Okay, so now you got my answer and everybody else's answer for that, because people out here, they're very cautious and afraid. And like with me, it's like I just want to know as much as possible before I make that next move, because I don't want to do something and I do something wrong and then I get a backlash and stuff like that. Because I think that's what people are afraid of. They're afraid of doing something wrong, rather than instead of worrying about doing something wrong, just be patient and just learn. Just do as much research as you can. What's your opinion on I guess on real estate right now, the what's the word I'm trying to say? I got a brain fart. The climate of the homes and stuff like that, of real estate. Yeah, to me, that's a great question. To me, I haven't really felt it too much. In a market like Los Angeles, you're always going to have people coming in and buying homes and wanting to sell and relocate. So the truth is, for me, I haven't really been feeling it that hard. But, homes are definitely staying on the market longer. So for me, when I sell a house, the house stays on the market longer. It'll take a little bit longer to sell, but they end up selling. You know what I mean? So for me, what I've seen is home prices aren't really declining too much. They're just staying on the market a bit longer, and that's kind of a whole nationwide thing, basically in every state. But the market fluctuates. It's very similar to stocks. So 1 month you'll have a nice nationwide month where things are selling a bit faster, and other months it'll take homes are selling at a much slower rate. So it's all about kind of just being prepared and just adjusting to the changing market. Right, because especially with this the shutdown. Well, I heard it's temporary. Everyone's back at work now. I think for 3 weeks now. Yeah. And I seen, It was a slow month. It was a very slow month for sure. Yeah, and the country lost about $1 billion, and that's why I always ask, when, especially when it comes to real estate, y'all have y'all slow seasons, y'all have y'all fast paced seasons, but when it comes to a situation like that, do the prices like go down? Do they go up? Do they stay?
So exactly, good question. Normally prices do go down. Well, always, mostly always prices do go down. And the reason for that is, let's say like I'm trying to sell your house, right? And let's say we list your house at like $2 million and it's not selling, right? There may be a lot of other competition. There may be high inventory in the area. There may be 2 other houses on the block that's on the market. So the reason why prices are going down is because, the home needs to sell. So for example, like if I were to sell your house and the house isn't selling, the first thing I'm telling you is, yo, DJ, we need to lower the price. So, like, let's say you're asking $2 million and it's not selling, then I would say, like, yo, DJ, we need to get more attention. I want to get more people in the door. Then that's when I say, like, hey, okay, let's drop the price to, like, 1.95 or, like, 1.9 or something, because that's how I stay competitive in the market. I want my house to sell instead of, the other houses on the block. So that's basically the only reason why home sales price-wise declined a little bit, only to stay competitive, because, when houses are on the market, then it's like, okay, damn, I need to, lower my price a little bit. I need to be more competitive and be more incentivizing.
Yeah, because, like, me and my wife, we were, like, home searching, and I noticed that it's some homes that they prices went down, like, by 20,000, 30,000. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like not just because it's the slow season, but also, with everything that's going on. Because I always looked at real estate as like stocks. It could go up one day, go down one day. Stay steady for a couple weeks. So
exactly,
that's what's up. So let's get into business now. Before we yesterday we was texting and stuff, and you was telling me that you used to invest in startups, and my undergrad, I went to FIU, and they one of their biggest things was they always believe in people should encourage people to do a startup, get people to invest in it, and then you never know, it could be like the next Apple, the next Microsoft, the next Oracle, them big huge companies. So what was your experience like, investing in startups and things of that nature, or having a startup?
Yeah, great question. So startups are very tricky, okay? The reason why startups are very tricky is because of the people that are actually, running the company. And, it's easy to find companies to invest in, but it's hard to find, it's easy to find good companies or good startups to invest in. But the thing is, it's a lot harder to find good people to invest in, right? So the saying, like, when you marry someone, you end up marrying their family. Yes. It's kind of similar to startups. It's like when you invest in a startup, you more so invest in the people that's running them. And, anybody could get, to the point of, becoming a bit profitable, getting to the stages that need the early seed round of funds. It's easy to get to that point, but it's just very hard to kind of, to invest in the people that are going to be in it for the long haul, because you see a lot of people who are kind of half and half in the business, not so invested, maybe interested in other things. And, when you invest in a startup, like, you really need to make sure that it's right with the market and that there's a big need for it. So that's my advice to people who are getting into startups. Like, make sure, my point is to really make sure that there's a need for it in the market, because, people have all these ideas that don't really make sense, or that there's no use for them, and they end up putting, like, years of their time into it, and it turns out that there's no need for it in the market. So for me, startups are very tricky, only because, there's very few times where there's actually a need for it, where you'll get customers, where you'll get, for example, subscribers, or whatever the platform is. It's hard to stay relevant. That's what I'm saying.
What was I guess, your experience like with startups, in terms of like what startups that became successful?
Yeah, great question. So I've been a part of a couple of successful startups. startup I actually put my time into and some of my funds into was a beautiful marketing